Okay, well, let's make some baguettes today. Fresh baguettes with easy recipe. So we're gonna show you what you need first. So it would be best if you can have a scale in grams, which I think it's a lot easier to figure things out. There's not a lot of ingredients, so it'll be easy to figure out. So we need a scale, we need a bowl. Nice to have a top or some type of a towel to put over it at a time. Then we also need some active yeast, and you could use a fork, but I like to use that mixer that comes handy when you're trying to mix the water and the flour together. And it's also the spatula is nice to have, and it doesn't stick. A little measuring cup, some salt, sea salt or Himalaya salt. You need some good filtered water, and flour. You can use really any type of flour. We're going to demonstrate today with all-purpose flour, and a measuring cup that I use for the water, and also a microwave that I warmed it up a little bit so it's not too cold. You want it like mild, mildly warm. Then I have some gloves, or when we're going to be doing the baking. I have some tray for the baguettes that we're going to put in there. And this is just a tray that we're going to add in the oven with some hot water to make some steam where we're going to be baking. So, well, let's start getting going. So we're going to warm up some water. We're going to need about 472 grams of water. So we're going to put it in the microwave for a couple of minutes to make it lukewarm. You don't want it too hot, but you definitely want it a little warm, not cold. So 2 minutes works for me. And then we'll put that water in the bowl. We're going to add it up, and we'll put the bowl on the scale in order to know how much is 472 grams. And before that, we're going to put the yeast inside the bowl, and I usually use one, a little less than a teaspoon. Really doesn't matter, it could be more or less. And I keep this yeast in the fridge. So when the water is going to be warm, we're going to mix in our bowl, and we'll put our scale at 0, and we're going to add 472 grams of water, which is about 2 cups. So we're almost 2 minutes. We're going to wait. And I use all-purpose flour, but you can use really anything. I like to use with whole wheat and hand corn and mixture of both, or bread flour works as well too. So let's see, we're another 20 seconds, almost there, ready to mix in our bowl of yeast the 472 grams of mild hot water. To our scale until 472 grams of water. Voila, 474, that would work fine. So now that we have that, we mix it a little bit and let it set. So now we can set the scale at 0 again, 0 it, 0 gram, and now we're going to add 720 grams of flour. So 720. Voila. 72 grams, and at this point we're also going to add a teaspoon and a half of salt. You don't want to add the salt to the water because it cancels out the yeast. So 1.5 of salt. Then we can turn our scale off, and then we're going to mix. We actually don't need the scale anymore. I'll put it over here. So now we're going to mix our water, salt, yeast and flour together slowly. Till we get a nice dough, kind of sticky. We got a little bit more flour than water, so I'm going to put a tiny bit of water, but it's not necessary. It's just easier to mix. Okay, then we clean this. I like to finish with that spatula. That's really a great way to mix without getting sticky. That's the first part, and what I like to do at this point when it's nicely mixed together is to let it rest for about 15 minutes covered, either with a towel or with a lid. I have a lid for this particular bowl. And after the 15 minutes, it'll be a lot easier to knit. You could just leave it like this for 7 or 8 or 12 hours. And then you won't have to do any knitting. And finish mixing it. Voila. And then we're going to cover it. For 15 minutes. Then we can clean up all our tools and come back and we'll do the knitting. As we're waiting for the dough to set, we're going to put the tray in the oven. The bottom of the oven, and we will put some hot water when we be ready to bake, and we'll put the baguette tray up here as well till we're ready to shape it and then get it out of the way, and then we'll wait for the dough to be ready. Okay, I think it has been about 15 minutes, so we're gonna start kneading the dough. Again, we can just leave it like this for about either overnight or about 7-10 hours, and then you won't need to do this particular stage. So what I do, I put a little bit of flour on the counter and around here, and a bit on my hands. And I take the dough out. A bit of flour in there for later. You have to put it back in there. For about 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours, minimum of 3. So we like to fold it back onto each other like this. Becomes less sticky. If it does, you add a little bit of flour. It's good to do this at least for 10 minutes, 10 to 12, it depends really. There's no exact time. Depends how well you knit, how long, how much the temperature is. The humidity in the air. Go until 5-2. Right now, if you take the dough like this as a test, kind of, you know, it doesn't do a nice, it's not mixed together enough. Getting there, I think another 5 minutes. You'll do the test and then it will stay all together instead of coming apart like this. It becomes more elastic. The gluten doing his work. Like glue. And if you use ancient grain like inkhorn, you cannot knead it that much. It's very fragile. So you have to do just a couple of minutes and let it rest for 15 minutes. Then you do a couple of turns and you let it rest for 15 minutes. You do that about 4 or 5 times, and then you let it sit for about 5-6 hours, and then it'll be ready to shape and put into the mold or the basket or whatever you decide to do with it. 12 minutes, so now we're done the kneading, and see, it stays together much better, doesn't come apart. That's good. Now we're gonna leave it in the bowl for about 3 to 4 hours. Put it in the bowl, cover it up, and wait 5 hours, so 4 o'clock. Okay, it's been I think almost 4.5 hours, and plenty enough for the dough to rest, and now it's ready to shape. So we're gonna take the mold for the baguette, and we're gonna cut our dough in 4 equal parts, since we have 4. Some of them are 3s and they are actually longer, but my oven is not very big, so I'd rather have 4 like that so they fit better in the oven. But anything would work, either you cut it in 3 or in 4. In this particular case it'll be 4. So I take my dough, and as you can see it rolls up in there, and then we want to punch it down to bring it back down. And then we're going to put it on the counter. Cut that in 4. 1, 2. Try to make it even. Wow, so we got 4. So we're going to take the first one. We're going to stretch it like a rectangle. We don't need to put flour because it doesn't stick anymore. You don't want the flour to make it so it won't actually stick to each other, because you want it to stick. So you're going to fold it like this and then back in this way. And then you roll it till it gets about the size you want. And then you can put it inside your tray. Do the same with the other ones. Do a rectangle. Not always easy, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And then we fold it again, and then roll it. Put it in the tray. There we have it. So we're going to leave those covered. I use a cloth. Clean towel and cover it. And we're going to leave it covered for about an hour and a half. And then we'll go back to the baking. And that would be it. It's been an hour and 10 minutes, so I'm going to look at the baguettes, see how they rose. Yeah, they did fine. So now what we're going to do is we're going to score them and start the oven. We're going to put the oven at 500, and we have inside the water that we're going to be adding for steam. So we're going to bake at 500. That's going to take about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to heat up to the right temperature. And in the meantime, maybe we could take a razor blade and score the baguette. I would like to do 4 scores. Slice it. You could use a sharp knife. I like to use a razor blade. Alright. And then we can cover it again until the oven is ready. And We'll also boil some water to make sure that we add to our pan for steam. All we have to do is wait another 10 minutes and then we'll put it in the oven. Okay, so now the oven is at 500 degrees. The baguette have been scored and rolled a second time, so it's all ready to put in the oven. So I have some water boiling and I'm going to put some gloves because the oven is hot and just have to be safe. So I'm going to open the door, put the baguette in there. And add some water to the pan for steam. Alright, and then I'm going to set the timer for about 25 minutes. Well, depending if you like them crispy, nice and crusty, or if you like them more, on the less cooked side. So I think 25 minutes is a good average. And usually you can leave it at 500 degrees or bring it down a little bit to 470 or 475, which is what I'm going to do. So put it down the oven 475 and leave it 25 minutes and then it'll be ready to take out of the oven. Okay, in 25 minutes, so I'm going to take my gloves again. Make sure I don't get burned because this time it's hot. And I'm going to take the baguette out of the oven. Turn off the oven. Take the baguette out. Right, and they have to be sound hollow, which they do. And they're about cooked away like kind of crispy. Bien cuit. Perfect. Now if you take the water off the pan carefully, turn off the oven, and then we'll probably let it cool off maybe 10 minutes before you can start eating it. You don't have to wait as long as a big bowl, so that's a good thing about baguette. So there you go, 4 baguettes that are ready to be eaten with cheese, butter, just about anything. Voila.